Hello YouTube, welcome back to my tutorials here about Unreal Engine 4. I want to thank everybody for watching, liking, subscribing, sharing with their friends. Hope it's benefiting you guys on your projects. So today I want to go over how to save levels, checkpoints, and open those levels. Uh, it's a lot of information. I tried my best to outline everything in the best order because there was a lot of troubleshooting to get this correct. Um, so the reason I was doing this, I was trying to create a way to save the level that the player last left off on, and I came up with this as a solution. Um, at first I was going the route of using the level blueprints, but I wanted something that I could just drop in as an actor and easily use it over and over. So well, I'll just start with what we would need. So here again we'll need an enumerator or enumeration list. So you can do miscellaneous, add enumeration, and then we would need 2 actors and 1 save blueprint as well. So you would just go to blueprint, and for the save one you'll type in save and save game, and it'll pop up like that, but I'm gonna delete it. And then you would just need 2 more actors, and those 2 you can name it something like save current level and checkpoint, and then save I'm sorry, open level. So those are the 2, but I don't need those. I just want to demonstrate what you'll need. So here, well, let me actually demonstrate what is actually happening. So I created 4 excuse me, 4 levels. One, this is considered like the main menu, and if you look at here, I made a couple of more levels for this tutorial, 1, 2, and 3, and so I'll just show how the player would progress through those. Let's just play as soon as it starts. Okay, so let's say you start game, open. You can see I have some messages printing just to make sure everything's working correctly. So when the game starts, this save game sprite there, you can see it's gonna automatically save the game's level right away. And then if I cross this checkpoint, you can see it printed a message of the location. If I cross this checkpoint, saves that location. Right now it's firing each time, but you can have it set to do it once. It just depends on what you prefer. So the players playing the game, they decide to stop, escape. They're playing again, and they continue. And as you can see, it starts back off on that checkpoint. Then the player decides to go to the next level, and they stop. We play again. They continue, and they're on level 2. They get to checkpoint. And they're on level 2 with the checkpoint. Probably get the idea now. And they're on level 3. So that little save game sprite there, that actor needs to be on every level for this to work. And then we're back at the title screen. Okay, so I'll show you how we can do that. So first, if you go to your main character, a lot of times I just set up a tag. I can even erase that. So if you go into search and search tag, you can add a tag, and I put player. This is just So if any objects happen to hit your that component, it won't fire anything. It'll just register your player. Okay, we won't need that anymore. Alright, so I'll try to go down the list. For the save game blueprint, I just have it titled Save Player Progress. Under that blueprint, you'll need two variables, the string, like that, and a vector. So just like when you create it there, you would just select them. And for my game, I have a level title screen for the main menu. And then the checkpoint right now is just default to 0. And so this information will change based on what the player touches when they hit the component, when they overlap the component. And then the next thing you want for that enumeration, you'll create a level list. I titled it level list. All the names of your levels you want to put in here. And as you can see down here, I have the YouTube tutorial, which is our title screen, and then level 1, 2, 3 that I just demonstrated. Also put this little choose level as a default, so the level designer can choose, they know to choose a level that it hasn't been selected yet. That was just a convenience thing. And after you create your list, you will create the blueprint. This blueprint will save the level name, save the level name and save the checkpoint. It's a lot of information, but I'm just gonna go over this first, and then we'll go over the checkpoint and set actor location. This here is kind of irrelevant. That's about how the loading screen works, and I'll get into that on the next tutorials. Okay. And this is our blueprint to open the level. That's what we'll be doing afterwards. And then there's two other actors, which are these here. This can be whatever for your game. This is my continue game actor. When they click it, it casts to that save file and gets the current level, and it'll open that. And then this is the start new game. And it's important that when you have whatever event you have to start a new game, you're resetting all the values. So I just have it open this level and reset my position. This is actually the position that I have for my player for each level. And it just makes it easier to know that my player is starting at this position on every game or on every level. I don't know why I feel the need to compile all the time. Alright, so under save level, we'll go to the components first. So what you'll need is for the save level and checkpoint, you're going to add a billboard so we can see that that actor. And you're going to need a trigger volume, and you would just add a box here. And then I just named it save trigger volume. And you can resize them under shape to whatever you want. That's mine. And under billboard, you will select the file that you want. And I actually created some of these so you can actually download these little sprites or icons for you guys. And ta-da! Those three: save game, open level, and checkpoint. I'll provide a link to that. And I just have it set to visible so you can see it. But when you really want it, you would want to hide it in the game unless you want to see it. Alright, so back to the graph. I'm going to start with the construction script. What we're doing here, let me actually open another level that has one. A lot of stuff to save. I should delete that. Okay. So you see this little save game. I have it set where we can just enable checkpoint and see the icon changes, and then if I disable it, it goes away. And you can also, this is also very important, I forgot to tell you how this actually works. The save game, you can resize your trigger volume here. So if I make it 200, depending on your level, maybe you have a huge map and you need it to be 2000 or up, whatever it needs to be. And then this save game, it just needs to be in the level so it actually saves what level the player's on. So when they load it again, it'll get this information and load the correct level. So we have this save current level drop down menu, and as you can see, this is the same from that list that we created. So you would want to select the level that you're on. So when you're designing, that's what you'll need. So if I play, you'll see a message print as soon as it starts working. I don't know if you can really see it, but it's saying the level right there. And I just printed that message so I know, okay, that I set this up right. Okay, let me go back here. So under this construction script for the save level and checkpoint blueprint, because they're working together, I use a set box extent, and this just controls the size here. That's exposing this as a variable that we can change. And you will create two variables, or one actually here, a vector, and you just want to make sure it's editable. Sounds like eating. Editable. And then you would add the save trigger volume, which should already be created once you added this component, and you would just plug that in. And then under, I kind of just organize it, and then the resize trigger volume that you would create will go there. And then I have a branch here that says, I have to get into this too. This boolean here is just so everything in this blueprint knows if that the checkpoint option has been enabled or disabled. So if it's disabled, if it's got a value of no value, it's going to set the sprite to save. This might not make sense. Okay, so let me back up. You're going to need two sprites, create two variables. So when you add a variable, you would do set what was it? 2D? 2D texture 2D? Yes. Texture 2D. You'll need one of those, well, two of them. And then when you compile it, you can actually specify what the image will look like. So I created two of them. One that has the save game image and one that has a checkpoint image. So I could delete that. Okay, so when it's true, it'll set this sprite to checkpoint. When I have this false, when it's not checked, it will set it to the save. And that's what's happening here when I check it and uncheck it. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to look at the event graph for the save level or checkpoint blueprint. So they'll work together. We want this blueprint to exist in every level so that we can save the name of that level so we can easily load it and keep track of the player's progress. Right. So in order to do that, we need three variables. One is a string, one is a save game object, and the other is our enumeration list that we created here. And you can just do that by, string or enum, and there's our level list. And if you just type in save game, there's the object. Okay, but I'll delete that. See, keep compiling. Okay, so ignore this for now. Okay, so when the game starts, we're going to get a node, does save game exist? And it's going to ask for this file name. If it does not exist, when we go through this branch, just as set up here, we're going to create a save game. And you can actually select, in my case, is save player progress. That's the one I created just as an example, which I'll delete. It's going to create a save game if it's false. And then you're going to set and plug them in and get. So you can kind of see how it works there. And then from there, you're going to cast to this file. And you would just basically pull from the get and cast. And there you have it there. And it should pop up. And then, plug them in. And then you're going to set the current level. Which is, almost forgot about that, is coming from here. Because I was like, why isn't it here? So when you cast to your save player, you now have access to these variables. And so you just basically set, and there you can see your checkpoint position too. So you will set that current one, which is here, which right now has a value of title screen. And then you're gonna, it originally would have a set to title screen, but we have this value determining what our current level is when the level designer selects it here. huge drop down list. So in order to do that, you would just pull from here and get, and just make sure this is editable. Sounds like eating. That way they can actually have control over here. If you don't make it editable, this function won't be available. And when you're plugging enums into like a string here, make sure that this little conversion says returns user friendly name of enumerator, because otherwise what it'll do is it'll give you something like this as default. It'll actually send this information instead of your actual level name, and nothing won't work. So just keep track and make sure that it's actually converting it the correct way. So I got that plugged in here, and then after we get this information, we're going to go to we're going to save game to slot, and that's our file name that we created as a default value, game save slot. You can name it whatever you like. And we won't look at this information yet, and I won't go into this yet. So the same thing is happening here when you load game from slot. Once again, it's still getting this information, and it's going to save it. So I want to make sure I'm saving every time they open the level. Okay, so I hope that part makes sense on how to save the current level, because now I'm going to dig into a more complicated part. So if you remember, under the construction script, we had this boolean here. This is basically just setting that image for us, so we know what we're doing, if we're saving the game or is it working as a checkpoint. So that this one boolean here is driving a lot of our information. So at begin play, I have a checkpoint. No, I have it titled if checkpoint enabled disables save feature. So this boolean, if it's checked, I will disable this. It's not going to do anything, because if it's true, nothing happens. If it's set to false, which you want in every game, it's going to save the game. Save the game's current level of that file name that you selected. Okay. So if I want it to work as a checkpoint, when I enable it, checkpoint, what game is that? We're going to start doing all this fun stuff. Alright, so if enabled on overlap saves checkpoint. So if it's enabled, it's going to do this mess. Okay, so if the player overlaps this checkpoint, I'm not sure what's going on there. Oh yeah. This concludes the tutorial. Okay, so you can basically add that event by doing this. You would select on component begin overlap, and this will pop up. And I also have, I don't know if you remember me adding the tag, but this is how you specify who actually affects this overlap. Because in my game I got kind of like all kind of things flying around at some point, and I don't need it triggering all these events. Okay, so this is optional. I'll put that there. Alright, so when you trigger the overlap, there's a branch that you're going to create, and you're going to create an actor tag. You just type in and it'll show up there. And you want to specify the tag that you gave your player. So it'll only work when it sees this player because you tagged it. Okay. Once it knows that it's the correct player, you're going to create another branch. This checkpoint, enable checkpoint, save checkpoint location. So this variable here will only work if we've enabled that. So if it's false, it's not going to do anything. In effect, we're going to do this. And if it's enabled, then we want it to save this checkpoint location. And that is this variable here. So you would just create a vector, and I don't want it to be editable on here. And I'll get into the default values because this could change for everyone. For my game, each level the player starts at this same location always, and so I have it set as a default, that location. But so there's two ways you can do it. You can either have that set to what you want, or you can get the actor location, which is the center point of the checkpoint. It'll load there. It'll save that information. So I found out there's a lot of what ifs when creating this system. So I'll try to cover as many what ifs possible. So say you have this figured out. The next thing you want is to load game from slot. So that is our variable here. And we have our save game object once again. And we're casting to the player progress file here. And we're getting the information from there. So you're going to get the checkpoint position from that file. You're going to set it. And it's setting this because it first got set here. Now we're getting it and we're setting it here. The get is coming from here, from this blueprint, not from the save player progress. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay. And then once we set this variable, we're going to save that to slot. So then now we'll have this new information instead of our default. It will have this information. And then this is just me printing a string so I know what's going on. So that's optional. And I think that pretty much covers how to save the checkpoint. Now, as far as setting the actor's location when the game loads, what I've done, when the game loads and that actor is in place, if the game slot exists, I have this line going, creating the check position. So where we saved it here, I'm now getting it here. So if you just hit get, checkpoint position, this is the newly saved information, just like that. and I've created a set actor location. Just like that, and then we want to get player character, like that. And then once again, I just have a string printing just so I know what's going on. I'm just using the pen to type out a message along with the actual values that are showing up. And I have this firing on both situations, but I'm always getting it from here. Okay. I hope that makes sense, because it's hard to explain. Okay, so take a screenshot as much as you need. The reason I had this do once, I guess it just depends. If the player crosses that overlaps the component, it'll either just do it once and then it won't save this information again, or you can have it just keep saving each time they cross it. So that's kind of just up to you. Ignore that. Okay, so now the next important thing is the open level part. So once again, we make a component and add a billboard and add a trigger volume. And under construction script, we do the same thing. I set the sprite and a box extent. If you notice here, I didn't use a branch because this open level, the image is going to stay the same regardless. I could show you that. That's what I created, a texture 2D and a vector that can be edited. Just checked here. And go to the event graph. Okay. Ignore this part here. That's something else I'll show you in the next tutorial on how to create loading screens. So if we just skip over it. So on component begin overlap for the open level actor, we check to see if actor has tag, and yes, it's player. If so, we'll go to true. Just skip over that. And then we're going to load game from slot. And once again, I created a string. I could probably consolidate that more. And once again, it's game save slot. So it's getting the information that we had, set there. It's casting to it, and we're setting like we set here. So once they begin overlap, it's going to set this information, and I have it set to my default player's location. This could change depending on your game, but let me continue from here. So you set the location, because when the game opens, it's going to have the information from the last checkpoint, so your player will start the new level, and who knows where they might spawn. So I set this to what is my default location first, then I save game to slot here, and then after a delay it'll open the level, which is here. So when you get it, it's basically taking this information just like how we saved when we had a save game. and you could select the level you're on, which is YouTube level 1, and I'll disable that. So that's our save game file. For open level, you want to, there's no disable checkpoint because no need, but you want to be able to select the next level, which in our case, this is YouTube level 1. We want it to go to YouTube level 2. And since this, you're able to edit it, the default is choose level, but when the level designer changes it, it'll go into here. But once again, just make sure you see this returns user-friendly name of enumerator. That's important, and then it'll convert from here. Because I believe if you just plug it in, you'll get a conversion, but if you can see, it says returns name of enumerator, and that's not what you want. You want to make sure when you pull this out, you go I don't to name, and there you go. Okay. And this is just to touch on if your player is starting at different positions. So I haven't tested this, but this is the solution I think would work. You can create another variable, since this one you can't edit from here. Or you could, I guess, change it, but I created another variable just for this actor, and if you plug it in and it's set to editable, then you could create a custom start location when the player loads. So it's setting a new location, and then when they spawn in that in the new level, you would have to specify where in the game. So I haven't really tested that out, but that could be a solution. And then just once again, for your continue game actor and the start new game, just make sure, at least for the new game, you're clearing any information that was set before to whatever your default information is. And for the continue, I'm just casting and getting that level name, because the checkpoint is set at the beginning of that actor, the save game actor, which will come all the way down here and get that information and set the location. This, you just have to be careful how your game is. If you do sweep, you'll run into objects, I believe. If it's not, you'll go through the objects. But if you have like enemies, I don't know if your player will take damage while it's sweeping to that actor location. So just something to consider. So yeah, the next tutorial I'll go over loading screens, and maybe after that, or in the same tutorial, I'll look at creating a chapter select screen. And hopefully I will have my trailer done for the video game I'm working on, so whoever's interested in that can check it out. I might have a tech demo ready soon after. So yeah, stay tuned, and see you guys later. Bye.